Hello, this is Cedric. You're tuned in 100.9 WXIR. This is life, and you are living in full enlightenment. Hello, everyone. It is always exciting to be here to talking to the world about the experiences that I've come across through tuning in to myself, not going without, but looking within to find all of my solutions to life problems that come my way. Now, life is a sequence of problems and solutions, and it is of great importance for us to learn how to become what I would call professional problem solvers. And to the degree that you can become a great problem solver in your own life will be a direct correlation to how you can grow and expand in life and how you will be best of service to the rest of the world. Now, where I would like to start with life is the company that I've created called Living in Full Enlightenment. And I was inspired to create this company based on my problem. And my problem was a lack of understanding of how life operated. And often through times, these problems that we have can't be solved, or they will be solved first in our own lives. So the good thing about a problem is that it can be a benefit not just for yourself, but for everyone in the world. Okay, because I was able to solve my own problem of ignorance and exchange it for knowledge, I become a light under my own feet. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world, when you can live in this world and not be of it and not be subjected to the effects of the world, but the causation of what creates the world. And I'm going to touch on the causation a little bit later. But let's start with my problem. What was my problem? My problem was I was in a world where I lived in the world, but I had little to no understanding of the world. I had little to no understanding of how the world operated, how I received what I received in life. I just felt like a victim of life. And when you feel like a victim of life, you feel like you have no power. Everything that you see is you're subjected to it. And when I learned that that was not the truth, but the truth was always within me, based on what I believe, it would express itself in my life. Now, this truth can be limited through ignorance, or it could be infinite through understanding. And the one thing that I grasped in this journey of life was that in order to expand and grow your life, it has to be done in enlightenment. And this enlightenment has to come by way of self. And what do I mean by way of self? I mean that you have to put more into this than anyone outside of you. You have to be your own coach. You have to push yourself onward and upward, because this is your life, and you are creating this life based on the laws of your mind. So what are the laws of your mind? The laws of your mind are simply what you believe. What you believe shall be done unto you. So what does this dispel as a myth in life? Well, that I'm not just subject to just any randomness of life. Okay, nothing just happened. Nothing just fall in my lap. Like, I'm not just subject to an accident. If an accident comes to me, if I would go back and I would comb through my mind, I would realize what the correlation of thought to this current scenario. It was an equal physical manifestation of what I was thinking. All right, you can only possess two beings of thinking. You can only think positive. You can have a positive mental attitude, or you can have a negative mental attitude. But just know, by the way that you think, you are correlating and creating a life specifically to that mental blueprint that you hold in mind. So it's really simple, that we are what we think all day long. And not just what we think, but our whole life is built around these concepts, whether they're good or whether they're bad. There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. This is why we have to realize that the first cause of all of creation, of who we are as human beings, we are thought express. We are mental beings, okay? We are spirit. All of our thoughts are not seen, okay? Like I'm having thoughts and I'm speaking right now. You can't see my words, okay? You can't see what I think, but by way I speak, which is verbalized thought, you know what is coming out of my mind. You know what I think all day long. And to be honest with you, with the new suggestions that I've given myself by way of the mind is amendable to suggestion, I've created a new song. I created a song of freedom. And what is that song of freedom? Is that if I would tune in more to myself, then guess what? I would find that everything that's seeking me, that I'm seeking, is seeking me. So the only thing I need to do is to work harder on me than anything outside of me. I need not work with the effects of life. And what are the effects of life? The effects of life is what has come upon me. What I fear the most has come upon me. What has come upon me? What do you fear right now? Do you fear I can't pay the bills today? Do you fear that the economy is going into a recession? Do you fear that you won't be able to lose that weight? Do you fear that the suggestion that the doctor has made is the final result? What do you fear? Okay? Are you conscious? Are you thinking about what's coming to you? Consciously, you should be screening. Even the words that I'm saying to you, you should be able to go back and check, and you should be able to ask yourself, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about what he just said? Does it make sense? Does it resonate with harmony? Does it resonate with freedom? Does it resonate with life and life more abundantly? This is what you have to think about. Okay? What is my goal? My goal is that each and every human being become a free thinker. And becoming a free, and not just a free thinker, but because we in theory, we do think freely. But not just a free thinker, but a free, accurate thinker. To think accurate is to create consciously. And to create consciously is to know what you are about to bring into a physical manifestation of the world and into your life. So my goal is for us to understand that it's no longer viable for our being and growing and expanding to point the finger anymore. See, when I realized that I was the causation of all of my problems, that was freedom. That brought me the ultimate freedom. Why did it bring me the ultimate freedom? Well, because I didn't have to go anywhere. All I had to do was tune into me. And if I would tune into self, and I would say, okay, well, this thought that that is resonating in my mind right now is no longer conducive to the growth. It is outdated. So just like your cell phone requires update in order to operate in the current systems, your mind operates the exact same way. In order to grow and expand to a higher expansion of life, you need a different thought. You need a higher thought, because what's in you, the spirit, the energy, always seeks to grow and expand and express more life through you. And that life that it's willing, that it's seeking to express is more life, more life, more life that's abundant, okay? And we talking about not just a randomness of life. We talking about the creator, which is you, okay, which are made in the image of this intelligent that created you. So how is this done? Okay. Well, intelligence. Pure intelligence. This is what you are. Sum total of you are pure intelligence. You are energy. So what is energy? Energy is spirit. Energy is light. This body, okay, that we operate with every single day, it's molecular. It's light. It's 50 trillion cells of just pure intelligence. Okay, so what governs? Let's start here. Let's start with us. So what governs this body? Well, it's your mind. It's Only your mind. It's just that simple. What governs everything that happens to your body? Simply your mind. Your mind governs it all. And it's here, if you would tune in to you and say, okay, well, what am I thinking right now? Well, look around you. You are the sole creator of everything around you. So you saying that I've created this death and destruction in my life? Well, the power of your word, it goes out and accomplishes that which it was set out to do. So what are you speaking? Are you speaking words of love, of words of hate? Okay. Now we can disguise the words of hate as well, dislike. Okay, well that's a relative of hate. It may not it seem to be as harsh as the word hate, but it's still a relative of hate. So here's what you have to understand. We have to be one dimensional in the words that we decree, because what you decree you shall be. What you think you are. All right? Not what you want, but what you truly think. And it is here I would like to impress upon everyone. If you would think good, then good must follow. And you can say, well, I've tried that, but it doesn't work. Well, you got to keep trying, because the sum total of you are a habitual being. You got to keep on keeping on till the day break. And the day break is truth. And the shadow of darkness, which is ignorance, fear, and superstitions, flee away. And if you keep doing this habitually, like me, this power, this intelligence within me is no respect of persons. It's in each and every one of us. We're all different expressions of it. So, being that I've said this, what has made me different from you? It's one word. We all have the free will to use this power as we freely choose to. And I've used this power for many, many years against my best interests. So why am I having this talk? Why am I having this talk? Because until you learn that you are the first cause, and the only way to create a different circumstance of life is to change the way you think. Because the sum total of you is thought express. Man's greatest power is his power to think. So if you would just take a little bit of time and just tune in and focus on you, you will find that there's an equal correlation between your causation and the effects in your life. See, incarceration doesn't begin on the outside. It just doesn't show up. Okay, this has to be a mindset. And incarceration in mind, there are many forms of it. Okay, how many people go to work every single day in quiet desperation? That's incarceration. You're going against the will of self, because this isn't bringing you joy, but you're doing it because what? Most people say, why do you go to work? And this is one of the worst reasons we can suggest that we do something. Because I have to pay the bills, or I have to take care of this, or I have to do that. But is it bringing you joy? This is the question you must ask. This life is meant to be easy. But what has made it difficult is the lack of understanding that we have about ourselves. And if we would get this understanding, now life, guess what life stands for? Living in full enlightenment. Living in full enlightenment is day to day. Everything that you go through in life it's always showing you. So if you would tune in, and you can say, well, who are you? How can you make these suggestions? Well, I can tell you how I can make these suggestions. I have lived in the midst of chaotic lives from the time that I came into this world all the way up to the time that I had a form of tragedy, which oftentimes allows you to reset. And what we deem as a bad, it's not a bad. It's something to help you reset the current mindset you have, so that you can live in an infinite possibility of possibilities. That's all it is. So if you would just not get caught up in what you see with the eyes or the five senses, because the five senses will always be limited, because what we use them for were not the purpose of what we're supposed to use them for. Five senses is giving you feedback on what you're creating. So what are you creating? So you are able to actually, it's almost like what we call the some form of a simulation or ultra reality. So if I didn't have, the five senses, I would not be able to interact with that in which I created. Okay, I couldn't feel, I couldn't taste, touch, go through all the sensory receptors that we have in our body. You wouldn't be able to interact with your creations, whether they're good or bad. You wouldn't be able to get real feedback. You would be almost like numb to the creation. So essentially, the brain wouldn't be able to register the feedback, and therefore you couldn't be able to grow and expand, because guess what? You're really not here. Okay, you're really not in the game of life, because you can't get any feeling to allow you to make alterations in life. But hey, you're tuned into 100.9 WXIR. This is Cedric, and you are living in full enlightenment. And I just wanted to inform everyone that this company in 2020 is going to grow and expand. I'm looking to show you that you are the only one that you need. And listen, everything that came to me was from me. Now, here's the most amazing thing in teaching. All right, first, in teaching anything, all right, is not to get puffed up. All right, because to get puffed up is to lose the concept of learning. Okay, I'm always in a state of learning. Why? Because this is how, as a human being, I'm able to grow and expand. Because I'm not a human being, but I'm a being, B-E-I-N-G, being human. Okay, so that means before I am what you see, which is this 50 trillion cells of what? Molecular, it's light, okay? And it's a projection. Think about the brain being a projection. And what does it do? What does the brain do? It projects what I believe myself to be, which is what? The law of life. The law of life is what you believe. It's the concept, it's the belief that have molded and fashioned even these 50 trillion cells, okay, of suggestions that were given to me, at a very young age. Because coming into this life, you need concepts in order to start creating a reality eventually that will become a hardened fact in the subconscious. So, what has made me a teacher or given me the credentials to teach? Well, being in ignorance. And it is here where I can say, when you are in a state of ignorance for so long, you desire for something else. You desire not to feel any more pain. And what brought forth the desire for me not to feel pain? Well, I was in pain. Okay, so the question came to me based on, remember how I explained that these sensory receptors are able to give you feedback so you can make adjustments. So in feeling pain so much and feeling, helpless and not having a clue or understanding of life, guess what had to happen? I had to ask myself this question. I said, well, it's got to be something better to life than just this. And I kept asking myself, and even though I wasn't ready to receive the answer, but I kept asking the question, it's got to be more to life than just this, than just to live painfully, just to wake up every single day in quiet desperation, just to look around and see people smiling. You say to yourself, well, what are you smiling about? Not to the person, but you say it to yourself. Why do you have such freedom in your life? What are you doing that I'm missing? Well, it was simple. Think good and good follow. And it has to be a habitual movement. It has to be the way you operate on a daily, because before you can take a movement in this world, you first have to what? You have to think first. You have to think even before you walk. And most people don't believe that, but the reason why it's not something you have to think consciously is because it has become a reflex movement. So everything that I'm doing right now, from my eye motion to my hands, all these are reflex movement, okay? But in order to become a reflex movement, it has to be a thought first. So there was a thought to move the hand, and by way me of moving the hand over and over and over again, it became what? It became a reflex movement. So now I don't have to think about it. It's just an automatic movement of the body. And the same thing with your thinking. Your thinking has to become reflex movement. So your old way of thinking is a reflex movement. Now, housed in this subconscious mind, here's the most important thing that you have to realize. This is not just going to be a walk through the park. It's just like anything else we do. It requires your attention. And your attention requires you to do this over and over and over and over again. And guess what? You can do it. No one else can do it for you. See, I can make the suggestions. I can talk to you. I can give you the lessons. But you have to try, prove everything that I've given you in the form of a study. See, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. You are thought express. What are you thinking right now? Are you thinking you're crazy? Are you thinking interesting? What are you thinking? But let me convince you of this, that what you think right now, if it's not where you want to be, if you would elevate your thinking just a little bit higher, you will find fresher air. The higher we go up in thought, the more and more we are aware of, the further we get away from that in which is limiting us to this quiet life of quiet desperation. You will find when you start coming up in your thoughts that anything unlike these new thoughts will pass away. And that's just the motion of life. Life is motion. Life is motion. That means it must move at all times. So when you say life is motion, which means motion, right? Let's add the E to it. So what is the E? Energy in motion. So you are existing right now, and you are energy in motion. And you must move towards something, whether it be worthy or unworthy, you must move, because the life principle in you, which is spirit, which is energy, the same energy that goes through these devices that we use, is the same energy that flows through these 50 trillion of intelligent cells. But here's what I really want you to understand. I want you to understand that you are amazing. Okay? Well, how do I know this? Because listen, when I can say I came from quiet desperation, when I can tell you if you understood where I came from, if you only seen the life that I lived, if you only could just imagine a life that was created around minds that were clueless. Now, this is not to say that these people, these relatives, these heredities, these ancestors weren't good people. They were great people. But I often say good people doesn't constitute a good life. What constitutes a good life is you understanding cause and effects. Well, what is the cause? Simple. What are you thinking? Then it will return to you. Okay? And if we would always be mindful of the causation is thought. So pay attention to what's coming to you. What's coming to you? Did you get in an accident? Okay, well, what are you thinking? And the one thing that people that I find, talking to people, is that they never want to actually point the finger and say it's me. But and it's not about a blame thing here. It's about you freeing yourself from what has been coming to you and what has been limiting your life. And when you have these limited mindsets, you find yourself in a limited life. You find yourself in places that you will say, man, I'm just sick of this. Why can't I move onward and upward? Why do I have to continuously to live in this routine of a dead end life? That's because you have dead end thoughts. So what has brought me here is the fact when I realize the freedom that you can have just by a new thought, and once this new thought become a hypnotic rhythm, once it become repetition, once it become a reflex movement of you, then you create this in your physical world. This become the effects of thought, because the effects you see in this world cannot happen until there's first a causation. There has to be a beginning before you see an end, and the beginning is always going to be a direct correlation of self. Self is the beginning of all. It is the architect of the world that you see right now before you. So if you say, well, why are we experiencing what we experience in the world? Because I'm a good person, and I do all, I do my best to be the best, and I would say here's the problem. We have erroneous concepts that are based on fear, ignorance, and superstition. And anytime you have these concepts in minds, beliefs, okay, it creates division amongst people, because it is these false concepts of mind that limits the whole mind from operating in harmony, because we all have different forms of concepts and beliefs. We all do. This is the law of life. What you believe has to be done unto you. What do you believe? So if you believe that outside circumstances are what govern your life, then by your law of belief, these outside effects will govern your life. So you will say, well, how do we change this? Well, it always has to go back to you. When you go back to you, the source, okay, the source of your life, let's just start with the individual. So let's not look at the whole world, because the whole world is technically not your problem. The problem you have is accepting the fact that you are the causation of all of your problems. That's the problem that we have. And this is due to fear, ignorance, and superstitions that have been passed on from generation to generation. Now, you got to understand what heredity is. If you look at a dictionary, it's a program. So these are the programs that the world can look at. I can look at your program, your heredity, and I can tell you what the next generation is going to be like just by your heredity of now. Just by you, the source. I sit down and I talk to you, and I can give you a clear indication of the infinite possibilities now. These heredities are infinite possibilities. So let's say if incarceration is is in the heredity, in the program. So there's infinite possibilities of incarcerations. Okay, incarceration doesn't have to manifest itself in you being behind bars. Incarceration could be of anything that keeps you limited to this very small spectrum of life. Okay, anything that keeps you limited is incarceration, period. Okay, so there's many forms of that, and there are infinite possibilities of this. So we have to understand that, you know what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that, okay, well, if my father went to jail, I'm going to go to jail. You don't have to fear that. There's going to be infinite possibilities that can come. The universe is limitless. And so when we learn this, that this mind is only limited by what? What you believe. What do you believe? What have you believed in? What are the concepts you hold in mind? Okay, these concepts you hold in mind, and I held them in mind too. All of the concepts and beliefs that were given to me through my parents, my environment, my teacher, and all those people who had influences over me, they were accepted suggestions. Why? Because I didn't know any better. I had no clue that that I'm supposed to protect the helmet of salvation. What is the helmet? This is the helmet. Okay? This is the helmet. Your mind is housed in the brain. Okay? The subconscious, okay? All right, which takes you at your word. It doesn't debate. It doesn't reason. Okay? It's only amendable through suggestion. And by being amendable to suggestion, you can change your law of life, which is belief. This is Cedric. You're tuned into 100.9 WXIR. This is life. And you are living in full enlightenment. And not only are you living in full enlightenment, but you are growing and expanding in the absolute truth. See, here's what we have to understand here. That this life that we live right now, it may seem difficult, it may seem confusing, but it's not. There's a parable that says that my burden's light, my yoke is easy. And this is true. But when somebody is giving you a false understanding, or think about it like this. You come to me and you say, well, I'm trying to get from A to B. But the directions that I gave you to get to A to B is simple in getting there, but I explained them to you wrong. I gave you the wrong directions. Same thing in life. These concepts that we hold in mind, if they're not, here we go. If they're not creating harmony, then what are they creating? They're creating discord. And by way of the direction of life, life should always be, one, growing and expanding, and not just growing and expanding, but it should always be harmonious base. And in being harmonious base, it will always add to not just yourself, but to the whole. Who's the whole? The whole is all of humanity, because essentially we're all one. What's done for one is done for the other. But hey, you being the creator, guess what? You have to receive much more of that in which you create. So what do you create in mind? What do you create in mind? See, when I realized that the mind was the source, it was all, then everything that I desire, I reduced myself from working so hard in the physical and said, you know what, let me spend a little bit of time with this mind. It may seem like it's something noble in saying, well, I gotta run. I'm always on the move. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm hustling. I'm doing all of these things, but there's nothing great in that. That shows that there's some form of lack of understanding, because you got to realize you have to create the effect first. So let me give you an example of what I mean by creating the effects. So if creating a day for me is me first closing my eyes and using my mental faculties. And one of the most impressive faculties that we have is being able to see with our mind's eyes. So you, who I'm talking to right now, you can close your eyes right now and I can give you a picture right now. I can give you a picture of a dog, and you can create a snapshot picture of a dog just like that. Just that fast. So the same thing with your reality. So if I want to see, let's say for instance, I'm thinking of a car. I'm thinking of a Porsche. Okay, I can see the word Porsche, but okay, give me a clear a car, the 911. Okay, so I can picture the Porsche 911 in my mind right now. I can see it as I'm talking to you. This is me creating a reality first in the causation. So if you want to tap a new sense of reality, what you have to do is you have to tap your mental blueprint. And your mental blueprint is what you suggest to you all day long. What you suggest to you is verified in the 20,000 words you speak all day long, because your word is spirit, energy made flesh. See how amazing this is? I love it. And I'm going to tell you this. I went to the Word. Now, my indoctrination of religion was based in Christianity. Now, here's what I'm going to say. These books can be interpreted, but it requires you to first understand in a simple form. Now, listen. Your life, your understanding of life is going to be based on how open you can be. How open you can be. See, your openness to receive life and life more abundantly, that will be based on how you are willing to expand just being completely open. Okay, and so what I mean by being completely open, that means you are willing to abandon all them old erroneous concepts. And what I mean by old and erroneous is they may not be wrong, but they are wrong in where you're trying to go. Those concepts that you hold right now are limiting you from where you're trying to go. So living a mediocre life it's a possibility. So there's nothing wrong with it. If it brings you joy, then there's nothing wrong with it. But if you have the concept or the program or the heredity of mediocrity, and you're trying to become a infinitenaire, then you know that you can't build that heredity, that program, that reality on that current concept. It can't be done. So you have to create a new concept, a new recipe that is going to support that new concept of life. It's really that simple. Life is good. It's really, really good when you have understanding. And it's the absolute best when you can use this understanding in real time and see real results coming. So this is the most amazing thing. Whatever you desire, you can have. Don't think that it's over. Well, I'm 30. Well, I'm 40. Well, I'm 50. I'm 60. I'm 70. I'm 80. I'm 90. I'm 100. Doesn't matter. What do you seek? You seek to be young, vibrant, and beautiful? Well, listen, you're light. You're molecular. All right? See, this is the reason why I always emphasize you must spend more time working on self than anyone outside of self. Because to work on outside effects is to produce more of those effects. So what do you desire? Well, I desire to be young. I desire to see this suit. This suit that I'm wearing, okay? Because remember what I am. I am what? I'm light. Okay? So in that being light cannot die. Oh, did I say that? Cannot die. It will always exist. Goes back to its original form. It must go onward and upward. Okay, you're here to house or to collect all the good feelings you can collect. Okay, but by way of collecting this, where it's going to be a benefit to your growing and expansion, it can't be done in what we call negative ways. Okay, because negative only produce negative. Okay, so that means if you're trying to do it a certain way by just pleasing the five senses, then you're only going to end up what we call void filling. And void filling is the worst way to live life, because we all have done it. We do it with cars, we do it with relationships, and then as we walk down the corridors of life, we find out that I'm seeking something else. I've done it. I've done it with vehicles. Thought that if I get a new car, I feel good. I dress it up, I make it look good, and I can feel good. But then the more and more that it get away from being new, the more it starts to become a burden. You don't want to live life that way. You want to live in a way that allows you to be free. Free to do and to be. Free to grow and free to expand in life. And listen, I'm not just here just putting on a show. This is something that you must personally apply. See, it's not my job. It's not my job to come chase you and say, please live a life of grand and greatness. That's your job. See, I'm just ringing the bell. I'm just saying, hey, there's a different way. And if you would just take your time, take a moment and say, you know what? Well, what is he really talking about? If you would pick up a book, and I can give a simple book. And the way you do this is by picking up these books of people who have asked those very same questions that you have asked. What is my purpose? What am I here for? Why am I just going through the motion? This doesn't feel good. You ask those probing questions. And here's the most beautiful thing about this thing called life If you would keep asking those probing questions, you and you alone will answer the question and set you on the destination of adventure, of understanding that no one can take away from you. No one can create confusion. No one can create a misunderstanding, but you will have absolute understanding, because guess who taught me? Self. I asked that question. I said, hey, self, what is the mind? And it was this that led me on the journey of discovering that all that I needed was within me. The light, the helmet of salvation. Now, all of these words that I've heard, not actually really engaged in anything of substance, because I didn't understand how to engage and apply, and I was just going through the motions of life. But when I asked myself this question, I said, hey, what is the mind? This was my way of asking, who am I? What am I? How do I function in this world? How do I become the best that I can be for me? Because it's amazing how we want to be the best of service to everything outside of us, but we so deprive ourselves of that opportunity to be free from our own quiet, desperate lives. And we wonder why we respond to the effects of life, because essentially we are only working with the effects of life because that's all we know of. But when you know that there's a causation of the effects you see, well, then the only thing you would do is have to tune in to what you want to see. So this is you polarizing, making suggestions, polarizing the mind to the highest degree. And how do we polarize the mind? Well, here's it in simple. Polarizing the mind is you only doing one thing. It's to focus on that in which you desire. What do you desire? Let's get a little bit more intricate in details. And the mind requires you to give details. Don't just say, I want a good man. Oh, that's not good enough, because you will get good. Good and ignorance don't mix. Good and ignorance ain't going to give you what you truly want. So not that you just want a good man, but you want a good wise man. Or not that you want a good woman, but you want a good wise woman. And not just a good wise woman or a good wise man, but you want somebody who understands self. Because to understand self is to be free to do and to be. So when you guys come together as this magnificent force, you are growing and expanding past any form of limitation that can come before you, because you know that it is only an illusion. And all you need to do is to tune in to that mind where all the causation of life begins. All the infinite possibilities exist. Just tune into it, and it will reveal a new reality to you. It's really that simple. Life is great in understanding. And what we understand, we can confidently walk in. We can confidently create. We can confidently say, I know what to do. All I have to do is shift to the left, shift to the right. But most people find themselves so short of this understanding that they miss the mark. And this is the definition of sin. Sin is called miss the mark. That's all you're doing. You're missing the mark of your desire that you seek. We all desire a great life. But in desiring this great life, you must pay the price. And what is the price that you must pay? The price you must give up. What you must give up is ignorance. And what you must substitute this ignorance with is absolute, a working knowledge of understanding. And your understanding of self will be a direct correlation to what you create in this world called life. And life only requires you to give it your undivided attention. Life wants to give you the greater things of life. And going into this new year, you need to think about this. You need to understand that you are thought express. And every thought you have has to be a process of the mind. And this mind being conscious and unconsciousness. So when we talk about consciousness, right now I'm conscious. I'm conscious. Consciousness means aware. What are you aware of right now? Are you aware of poverty? Are you aware of lack? Are you aware of limitations? Is that your awareness? That's not consciousness. That's a program. Because no one is aware of the illusions. The illusions are the effects that you see that have been created by what? The subconscious, what is housed as a default program that you hold in mind, not your own, but of those who have parted this or given this or indoctrinated you with this at a very young age of 0 to 7, which is the indoctrination period of life. This is what gives you the realities that you can never seem to get away from. This is what creates self-sabotage, because you are trying to build the life you desire on the concepts, all right, heredities, belief that someone else gave you, and these concepts are not viable to the life that you want to build. They will always be in opposition to that in which you desire. This is Cedric. You're tuning to 100.9 WXR. This is life, and you are living in full enlightenment. So as we conclude and we come down, I really want to impress upon us that living, it must be done consciously. You must live. You must be in tune into what's in your environment. You must be paying attention. Now, understanding when you come into something new, there's always the resistance of the subconscious. All right. The subconscious is habitual, and it only seeks to only do what it knows. That's it. It's not interested once you get past the age of 7. It's not interested in changing the program, because in theory, the subconscious knows that whatever you've given between this becomes the law of between 0 to 7 becomes your law of life. And that's okay. Okay, we understand that. That's so that your realities are you have a reference or a point of reference for reality. So you have a default program, okay, that the subconscious can always create your realities off of, and that's just nature. Okay, that's just how it's done. Now, some of these ways or the ways of creations are past your finding out, like the seed of desire. Think about the seed of desire, what you desire, and that in between period of the manifestation. So when you come up with a desire and the law of growth, okay, because the law of growth is in all of nature. So when you plant the seed of desire, you don't understand, well, how does the process becomes an invisible to a visible? Okay, now some ways are past our finding out. But you will understand, and you will know enough, or you will know the law of your being knows all. It knows all. Even if you're not consciously aware of all, it knows all. So even though you may not have come into that complete understanding, but you know that there's a working knowledge of how to make the invisible invisible, and only you can do that. Or you can subject yourself to someone else making the law of life by allowing them to suggest to you what you should or shouldn't be. All right. Words are very powerful. That old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. I don't know who came up with that concept, but it was totally wrong. It was not right at all. That came from a mind that was filled with fear, ignorance, and superstition. Words are the most important. Words are made flesh. They create. They won't only break your bones, but they will destroy your life. By your word you are condemned, and by your word you are justified. This is an absolute fact. Every word that comes out of my mouth is going to be all about building you, and first building myself to a higher level or higher vibration of thinking, because you and I are the sum total of what we have thought, or what we've been sold, and what we have bought. Okay, so you understand this, that this life that we are living is not just by random. Okay, this is a life that has been created from the invisible, made visible. So everything that I've seen up to this current point. Now remember this. Now this law, this life that we live. Okay, where I'm at right now, it wasn't something that I had planned. It wasn't something that I thought about. Just thinking that I would be, talking to people and explaining to them and becoming a student of the mind, and teaching about the mind. That wasn't in my plan. My plan is I just wanted a whole bunch of money, and I just wanted to, to live good. That's all I wanted. It wasn't about you. It wasn't about anyone else. It was about me just enjoying a good life. But here's the thing: seek ye first the kingdom, and all things will be added to you. What is the kingdom? Man, this is a beautiful thing. The kingdom is understanding. It is knowledge. When you have knowledge, all those things will be added to you. And I'm going to impress upon you. I'm going to suggest to you, because your mind is amendable to suggestion, that if you would become a thinking, and not just a thinking being, but an accurate thinking being, you will find a life that you have been searching for all of your life. And when you get on this good foot of life, I can tell you this: you don't have to worry about going back, because those lesser thoughts will fall away. They cannot stand in the light of truth. And you got to understand, darkness and light cannot exist. You must choose this day which thought you are going to serve. You're going to serve the truth, or you're going to serve the erroneous concept that you have been given. But you must choose. You cannot live in both. You cannot live in truth and stay in the darkness. Okay? You must grow and expand by the law of growth. You have to come up, and you have to come up higher. And this thing is not painful. It only requires you to tune into you. It only requires you to ask that pressing question: who am I? What am I? How do I operate? Well, I can give you a start. You are 50 trillion cells of pure intelligence. And hey, I'm gonna give you a little inspiration as we come towards the end. Check this out. Do you know that you have a whole new body within 1 year? Do you know that these 50 trillion cells are renewed daily? You shed billions of cells daily. This is amazing. So some people would say, well, why do I get old? Or why is there aging? Well, hello, aging is what? It's a program. Okay, it's a suggestion that you have accepted as a reality. So this is a law of your life. So aging doesn't have to be a law of life. What do you desire to be? You desire to be young forever? Then cultivate those thoughts that create youth. That's all that there is. Well, man, you sound a little bit farsighted. Well, I am, and I'm going to think farsighted, because the only way that I can maintain these 50 trillion cells is to believe what I'm saying to you. And if I lack the belief, okay, it shall be done unto me. By my word I shall be justified, and by my word I shall be condemned. And listen, the most important thing is, I'm not here to prove anything to you, but what I'm here to do is to suggest to you that there's a better way. And if you would tune in to you, okay, because the word has been made flesh. So that means that there's a working knowledge that's out there that has been made flesh in the form of a book. And if you pick it up, you will realize that you have been suffocating yourself, suffocating your desires all by yourself. Now, would we do this intentionally? No. What creates this? Ignorance, pure ignorance. And if you want to tune into something, don't tune into ignorance. Don't say, well, I'm going to fight ignorance. I think we need to hashtag no more ignorance. That's a good one. I like that one, actually. But tune into understanding. Let's hashtag all become knowledge wealth, because it is here where you will find that you are the only one that can bring forth your wealth. It's no one outside of you that's keeping you from your wealth, because everything that you desire is within self. Only thing you need to do is by your faith, by your belief. Word express, that is you. You need to call that forth. And only you can call it forth because you are what? Here we go. I got 2 words for you. I am. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I am joy. I am excited. I am all those things that bring nothing but greatness to me. And you, and only you can call forth the I am within you, because I am, whatever you attach to the I am, you must experience in your life, in your conditions, in the realities that you create in this world. Because as you will study and as you will learn that the sum total of you, the sum total of life is you. Whatever you decree, whatever you speak, because whatever you're speaking, you believe. Okay? Speaking is nothing but verbalized thoughts. So verbalized thoughts is just confirming to you, what do I really think? What am I focused on all day long? As you can see, my verbalized thoughts are of the mind. And I love the mind. I've so loved the mind that it has rendered me greater successes. And it will continuously to render me these greater successes because I give my all to it. I give my allegiance to it because guess what? It's pure intelligence. And guess what? This pure intelligence, I am using a piece of the intelligence of the infinite intelligent mind, the parent mind, the universal mind, however you choose to express this power, but it's there and you should use it. Because to not use it is to disconnect yourself from it. It's like the phone company turning your phone off. You're disconnected from the rest of the world. You can't dial out any number. So the only reason why you're not able to tune into this infinite power because you haven't turned on the acceptance that you are more than just a physical being. It's more to you than meets the eye. You are awesome. You are not just awesome, but you are amazing. And if you would just tune into you, get to know you, not so much everybody outside of you, because once you get to know you, you will realize not just how amazing you are, but how amazing everyone else is. And this will give you a whole nother respect about humanity. You will love and cherish humanity in a way that it will never be about a color. It would never be about money, because you will understand that we're all one and the same. Okay, you'll understand that wealth is in the mind. Whatever I can conceive in my mind, then that is which I can be. It is just that simple. So when you understand that my wealth isn't based on someone taking from someone else to live this life, because this universal mind is infinite. You can't exhaust it. I can't exhaust it. None of us can exhaust it. So once you pull all of these erroneous concepts that had limited you to focus more on the outside than the inside, because when we focus on the outside, what do we focus on? We focus on the effects of life. And what are the effects of life? The effects of life is what you see before your eyes and what you can use your sensory receptors to interact with. So if you would focus on the causation, which is mine, first, and not the effects, then guess what? You don't work with the effects, because to work with the effects is to create more effects. So, hey, I'm telling you, if you would tune into self, you are your own salvation. Put on the helmet of salvation. Protect the helmet of salvation. What is the helmet of salvation? It is your mind. It is yours. It has been given to you. You have dominion over it. Use it as you please to bring you those things in which you desire. And if you do, I can promise you, you will be free to do and to be anything you desire in this world. So, hey, in this new year, let's use our minds. Let's use our minds to create not the undesirable, but the desirable. Those things we desire, let's use this magnificent tool that we've been given to decree a thing, to decree the realities that we desire to see. Because life is all about moving onward and upward. Life is all about grand experiences. And if you want these grand experiences, what you have to do is first go within, not without. So, hey, as we conclude this show, I'm going to tell you this year, I plan on making an impact upon myself that not just will be a benefit to me, but it will be a benefit, an even greater benefit to the whole humanity. But here's what I do. When you don't see me, I'm working harder on me than I'm working on anyone outside of me. And that is the key. If you want to be the greatest of service to humanity, be the greatest of service to yourself first. You have tuned into 100.9 WXIR. This is Cedric, and you are living in full enlightenment. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.